Hi, fans of high quality entertainment. I've been wanting to do this idea for quite a while, and if any other channel out there would like to do this too, feel free to. You don't even have to mention my name. You don't have to give me credit. I don't care. Just do your own top 10 list and make sure you credit me. Anyway, I this idea, and it's not ranked, 10 bands, mainly classic rock, but they can be prog or whatever. I just mainly classic rock. With band members, when you add up all of the band members that are in each of these groups, for me, these top 10 bands have the most talent. And by the way, I haven't included the Beatles because the Beatles are beyond. So they're not in this list. And even after doing this video, I was realizing, oh, I missed a really good band. But, there's only room for 10, and I'm happy with the list that I've made. You're not all going to agree with me, and that's fine. We all have our different opinions. The band I was thinking of is The Who. That's right, the friggin' Who. The talent in that band. Pete Townsend, songwriter, his vocals through the Who years. I didn't realize how many Who songs he actually sang. And he has a really nice voice. Roger Daltrey, of course, Keith friggin' Moon, and John Entwistle on bass. So definitely, I agree. They should be in anybody's top 10 list. They're not in mine at the moment. I apologize. So, like I said, these aren't in any particular order, and here we go. And, even a handful of these bands aren't one of my favorite bands, but I feel they still should be in the top 10 list. Deep Purple. I do appreciate them, and I have some of their albums. I love some of their music, but I'm not a huge fan. But they definitely had a lot of talent, have a lot of talent in the band. Ian Pace on drums, John Lord on keyboards, and Roger Glover, and the rest, Richie Blackmore and Ian Gillan. Major talent right there. I think that's, and some of these bands, some members come and go, so I've chosen what I feel are the best group of members for each band. Deep Purple. A band called Led Zeppelin. They had a bit of talent. Jimmy Page as, songwriter, guitarist, and of course producer, amongst many things. Robert Plant isn't too shabby of a singer. John Bonham, one of the greatest drummers. And John Paul Jones on bass and keyboards. Just almost too much talent for one band. The Mothers of Invention. Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. Almost any of, every few years he would change. Well, every year, I guess, members would come and go. This, I think, was the best group with Ruth Underwood, George Duke, Napoleon Murphy Brock, and Tom Fowler, and just amazing talent, not to mention Frank Zappa. Yeah, so the Mothers of Invention. Queen. Talk about talent. I would say, if I was going to, these bands from 10 to 1, I think Queen would be number 1. And first of all, you've got Freddie Mercury, one of the greatest singers of all, and one of the greatest frontmen, or, for some, the greatest. And then you've got Brian May, who's an incredible guitarist and a really great songwriter and singer. Roger Taylor, pretty damn good drummer, great singer, and he wrote a few pretty damn good songs too. And then you've got the bass guy, John Deacon. I almost forgot his name. Poor John Deacon. I almost had to look it up. But yeah, just, for, I guess John Deacon didn't sing really. I guess maybe he did some background vocals, but the three, Freddie, Brian, and Roger, especially Freddie, of course, but all three of them were really, really good singers. And all four of them were excellent songwriters and musicians. See, I could have included The Who instead of this band because this band, Blind Faith, only made one album. But it's one of my all-time favorite albums. And you have to admit, there's some talent in this band. It's just sad that it didn't last. I was almost going to pick Cream, but I'm more of a fan of Blind Faith than Cream. So you've got Eric Clapton, you've got Steve Winwood, you've got Ginger Baker and Rick Gretsch on bass. Just incredible talent. So I included them. I bet some of you don't even know who this band is. I don't even have any of their albums at the moment. I did on vinyl back in the day. But it doesn't matter. They're not one of my favorite bands, but I've seen them online. I've read up on them. Gentle Giant. They are incredible musicians, all five of them, and they could play different instruments. They could switch during a concert. They could switch places and play different instruments. So, yeah, Gentle Giant. This band isn't too bad for talent. Genesis. Of course, this is all the members, but it doesn't matter. The Peter Gabriel years or the Phil Collins years. Just, once again, excellent talent. I prefer the Peter Gabriel years over the Phil Collins, but even the Phil Collins years had some great albums and songs. Tony Banks and Rutherford and Steve Hackett. I was going to say he's a very underrated guitarist, but I think through the years, he's pretty well respected in music. And, Phil Collins, first of all, a top-notch drummer. And, in the 80s, he got a little annoying being everywhere all the time. If you're my age, remembering the 80s. But you got to admit, talented guy in a lot of ways. So, props to Genesis. Here's one that some of you might disagree with, and that's fine. It's just, like I said, my own personal feelings. Blue Oyster Cult. And the reason I'm including them is all five of these musicians were great songwriters. On all of the albums, they would write songs like together or apart. Then there's Buck Dharma, who I consider one of the greatest guitarists of all time, one of the most underrated. Joe Bouchard was an awesome bassist. And Albert Bouchard, a pretty good drummer. Ellen Lanier, great keyboards. And then Eric Bloom, I love his vocals and his guitar work too. And like I said, it's just all of the talent in the band for songwriting. And then on top of that, they were great musicians. And the other thing too is all of them sang. I know that Lanier only sang, I think, True Confessions, but the other four members, they all sang on different songs, and they were all excellent singers in my books. But I can see, like I said, some of you disagree, but Just my personal opinion. One or two more. I had to include this Canadian band, Rush. They could easily be number one also for the amount of talent in the band. Neil Peart and Alex Lifeson and some guy called Geddy Lee. Sometimes Geddy would be playing the bass and the keyboard at the same time. And Alex Lifeson, one of the great guitarists. And of course, Neil Peart, also known as one of the greatest, or if not the greatest drummer of all time. So yeah, Rush. One more to go. Who is it? I had to include this for Scott from the Prog Corner, or he'd be sending me some nasty messages. It's Yes. I mean, just look at the hair. The hair is perfect. Yeah. This is probably, like I said, even today, they're all talented in the band. John Anderson, one of my, he could be, he's in my top 5 for singers, maybe top 3. Steve Howe, he might even be my all-time favorite guitarist, or 2 or 3, along with Frank Zappa and Buck Dharma. Chris Squire, along with Paul McCartney, my favorite bassist. Alan White, of course, on drums, great drummer. And Rick Wakeman wasn't too shabby on the keyboards. So yeah, that's it. That's my list of what I feel are 10 bands with a lot of great talent in each band. I would love your thoughts in the comment section below. And besides The Who and, of course, the Beatles, what are some other bands you feel should be included in a list like this? Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.